Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode, our last episode actually, of Sreshtha, Purposefully Passionate about Domestic Abuse Awareness. The intent of this series is to raise awareness in respect of mental and emotional abuse. Everyone knows what physical abuse is, but persons are not readily able to identify signs of mental and emotional abuse. In this series, we spoke to survivors, we spoke to therapists, we spoke to lawyers in respect of Trinidad law. We also had alternative healers. And in this episode, our last episode, we have a survivor story. Ironically, this story or this person is my inspiration for this entire series. So God has his way of making things happen and closing off perfectly. My friend's name is Lisa. I have known Lisa since high school. We were good friends for a large part of my life. I wouldn't say how long because I need to figure out how old I am. But she is really one of my best friends. She is an intelligent person. We always admired her in school. And throughout my life, she has been someone who has always been there for me. And I'm really excited that she is here to share her story, being the inspiration for this series. So welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for agreeing to share your story with us. Tell us anything you would like about yourself before we begin.
Okay, thanks, Trish, for that generous introduction. I hope I can live up to it. There's a mom of two wonderful boys and living happily, very happily at the moment. Divorced about a year now.
Yes, so thank you so much. A mom of two wonderful boys. Every mom just loves their children and dotes upon them. So let us start your story. Tell us how you met your partner, your ex-partner, what happened, and what the point in time in which you realized you were being abused.
All right. I met my ex-partner about 15 years ago. We were working in the same general region, and he wanted to get to know the area a little more. So I decided I would take him for lunch, and then we drive around. I had known him previously through high school, but we hadn't spoken for some years. So in driving around, we got to talking a lot on the phone, having lunch almost every day, and realizing we had a connection with each other. I just didn't know at the time that he had a girlfriend. And so I was sort of in between for a little while until he broke up with his girlfriend. And when he did that, we got together and officially became boyfriend and girlfriend. Shortly after that, my ex-boyfriend came back into the picture. My ex-boyfriend of 10 years came back in the picture and wanted a second chance. And at that time, I didn't know what to do because that's all I had wanted before I met my ex-husband. That's all I wanted, to be with that previous ex-boyfriend. And so I was taken back by his request, and I decided to give it a break with my ex-husband, who I had just started going around with, so I could figure out what to do with my life. And it was at that point when this was probably a year into knowing him, when I made that decision that I just want to take a little break, just be on my own and figure out, because whoever I decide to be with is who I want to be with the rest of my life. Just need to figure out things on my own. The reaction wasn't what I expected. I expected someone to think that maybe that was a mature decision that I made. But instead, I was met with insults as if I was a child and I didn't know what I was thinking and was incapable of making the decision on my own. And I asked to be left alone, but he never left me alone. And I was therefore went along with it and went with the flow. And instead of choosing to take the time to be with the ex-boyfriend who had come back, I decided to stay with this person who then became my husband about 3 or 4 years later. In the process of dating, I noticed some things, some behaviors when I look back, I probably should have paid closer attention to. But every time I spoke to, or at that time we had ICQ, message other male friends of mine, he would become a bit jealous and question why I was talking to these males at particular hours of the night, later hours of the night. And I would say, well, that's when I get time. Things we would talk about would be things like football games, nothing romantic, because I was a very faithful girlfriend from the time I became fully a girlfriend. I was very faithful and I always made that known. And I would always wonder why he would question me speaking to members of the opposite sex. During that period, when I decided not to be with my ex-boyfriend and to try with the current boyfriend, who then became my ex-husband, I still tried, I was still a bit friendly with the ex-boyfriend, as he wanted some closure. And at that time, whenever his name came up, or I said I wanted to talk to him about something, to explain any particular situation, my ex-husband, let's call him Michael, so I don't have to keep saying ex-husband, he would get into a rage where he would start cursing me and insulting me, personal insults, cursing me with words like I wouldn't even say them because I don't curse, but you know, the F word, calling me a bitch. At times he called me a C, the C word, and that was, it really threw me for a loop because I'd never really heard those words growing up in my life, and I didn't think, you know, a man should be speaking to a woman in that way. That's not how I grew up. And I took it because I started to believe, well, actually, I'm really a bitch because this guy is trying to be with me, and I'm still showing, I guess, that I have care for that person that was my ex-boyfriend. But when it started getting to the point where objects were being thrown around me, things were getting broken. I remember the wardrobe getting broken, the mosquito net getting ripped in a rage, and I would just go into a state of fear. The worst times were when this rage happened in the vehicle and he was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and he'd be cursing and carrying on, and of course the car would be going faster and faster, and I would fear for my life. There was once when he stopped by a traffic light, I just opened the passenger door and got out and started walking because I you know, it's just paralyzing, fear, but paralyzing, not to the point where you just act on instinct and you know you have to get away from the situation. This is before we got married. All this was before we got married. And every time we talked about it afterwards, he would apologize for his behavior. He would say it was my fault that caused him to be angry because of what I did. And I would, even back then, I would say to myself, how is it my fault? You are the one in control of your mouth, your temper, your hands, whatever you're doing. He insisted that he would change. And I guess because everyone was expecting us to get married, by that time I was 28 and wanted to have children and didn't want to go through the process of finding somebody else. I went along with it. We got married. My wedding night, I got cursed when I was a virgin when I got married. And I was, of course, expecting something grand on my wedding night. I got cursed because he said I was harassing him and he was tired and just wanted to sleep. So I can't say that's where things went downhill from. Things went downhill, I think, from the time I made that decision, where I wanted to take a break just to figure out what I wanted with my life. During the marriage, we had about 2 years together before we had kids. And in those 2 years, there were rages happening again, this time to do with someone I worked with that he found I interacted with too closely. And up to this day, this guy and I are still friends, and we've had no sort of romantic connection whatsoever. But there was a time when we traveled to a foreign country for a work trip. My husband at that time came with me. We went walking, and my husband would walk very slowly, but I tended to walk fast. And the guy from work also would walk quickly. So I ended up walking ahead with that guy from work unconsciously, not really realizing it. And when we got back to the hotel room, of course, then my husband mentioned it at that time. And then I was aware of it. And I wasn't really allowed to explain. I didn't really have an explanation because I wasn't aware it was happening. But at that time, the cursing was so bad, I did get flung across a hotel room. And he was over me with his fist, saying that he could kill me now. And that's not the first time I got flung across a hotel room, by the way. But I guess that's the physical abuse aspect. From my point of view, I thought I was going to die. And the thoughts that go through your mind at that time when they see your life flashes before you, that's actually happened to me several times during this marriage because of situations like that. So as we went along the years, we had children. He never got help. I got into counseling to see, because he always said it was my fault. So I wanted to see how I could fix maybe how I bring up an argument, or if I was nagging, or how I could change my own behavior. And I tried to make some of those changes. I guess I didn't succeed. The arguments continued. I remember a time I had the baby in my arms and the other one in the crib. And he got in a rage about something and threw the cell phone towards me. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this could hit this 3-month-old baby. And that's the first time I spoke out. I called his sister. That's the first time I spoke out to anybody, because now you're not endangering just me, endangering my children. And calling his sister turned into a family discussion where his mother and father called us to speak to them. And in that discussion, it turned out that I was still the bad one, because I was talking to this guy, too much to this guy from work, or going for lunch with this guy and a group of friends from work too often. So his mother made me seem like I was not being respectful to my husband. So I stopped talking to that person from work, just like I stopped talking to all the other guys that I used to talk to. And the marriage just went along. I think I was just staying there for the children. I know they say you don't always stay for the children. At the time, I thought it was best for the children, like so many of us think. And we basically lived separate lives, I would say, where he would be out of the house all day, pretty much. After work, he would go to the gym for hours and come home late after 9. I would be the one picking up the kids from my aunt where they go after school. I would be the one cleaning. He always wanted me to cook, but I really did not get around to cooking. That's one of the things he said made me a bad wife. But with the job I had, these made me sound like excuses. The job I had, and I was feeling like a single mother. I did not get around to the cooking because I didn't want to be cooking that late at night. Maybe in hindsight, I should have and not focused on the cleaning. I don't know. But I got to that point where I wanted something very much to do with my life. I got back into religion and was a very Christian at that time. And I met someone who used to teach at one of the extracurricular activities that my kids attended. And that person had just got fired from his job. And something drew me to that situation where I felt like I could make a difference in someone's life. What happened at the work situation I didn't think was fair, and the person has a lot of talents. So I decided I was going to help this person financially. And when I spoke to this person more, I realized the things they were being accused of were false, and there was hope in there. And so because I felt I was doing something really good, it made me feel really satisfied to be helping someone rather than just giving money to a charity. I put more effort into helping the person write their songs, write their poetry, try to get it published, try to help them get a job as well. And my husband felt that I was spending too much time with this person. I had said at the time, well, you're not around. I think I'm doing something good. There's no attraction or anything going on. Hey, I'm helping this person. And at the side, they're also helping me. And he said I need to stop talking to the person, of course, was a guy. And I decided at that point, no, I'm not going to, because I knew he had something going on the side with another girl. And I was thinking, if you're doing that, why do I need to stop doing this? I'm actually not cheating. You are. And so I'm going to continue helping this person. And things just, because I think I didn't stop. He said I didn't respect him, didn't respect the marriage. I said, that's true. I lost respect from the first time that he started cursing me. That's actually when I really did lose respect for him before we were married. So for about 2 years, this went on. And he would rage with me about this person. But then he'd also ask, can the person come to the house to teach the children, because he wanted time to go to the gym. So it was a bit conflicting messages. He would also ask to help sometimes with the writing of the music or give suggestions. So sometimes I would think, okay, he's supporting this. And then sometimes when he reached, I think he isn't. What I hadn't realized was what was going on with the children until I realized my little one was scared to go anywhere in the house by himself. He would always have to be accompanied to go to the toilet, to go anywhere, even from one room to the next. And I realized how scared he was being in this house with his father. And the older one, he just withdrew. He withdrew. And I think he withdrew because the rest of my family knew that I was helping this other person, and they didn't approve of it because of the person's race, background, age. They didn't think it was, I guess, at the same level as I was. And my aunt completely suspected that something romantic was going on. So she hired a private investigator to follow me around, as she said. That I never verified, but it was really something scary to think about. Okay, my every move is being watched. Now I'm not doing anything wrong, but I have to be extra careful now because what's going to come of this, I don't know. I don't know if my husband is involved with this either. So there came a point where I found a message on my husband's phone, "Hi, honey," from another lady. And that day I decided, okay, this is enough of this, us both pretending that the other doesn't know what's going on. So I confronted him, and he admitted that this was the second person he had cheated with, and said he didn't want me physically. I was not attracted to him. Physically, he was not attracted to me. He never was attracted to me. He said he doesn't go out with me because he's embarrassed to be seen with me because of the way I dress. I don't wear makeup. I don't look sexy like the other girls. And he said, hey, let's have an arrangement. He said he wants to be with that girl and still live together, but he'd be with that girl and I could be with somebody else. I could be with the guy I was helping if I chose to be. And I said the other alternative is to get divorced. He said he didn't want that because he wanted to be around the children. I agreed with the arrangement to see how it would work, and he said he needed to do that to work through something. That lasted about 2 months, that arrangement. During that 2 months, I asked about 3 times if he could find a way that we could make it work, if there's any chance. And every time he had said to me, there's no chance in hell, and went through again with me that he didn't want me, he's not attracted to me. So I decided, okay, since I have permission, this is an arrangement, I would try something with the guy that I was helping. And that one time that he came over, that time is when my husband realized, hey, I'm trying to have a relationship or a romantic relationship with this person, and he would have none of it. He said he can do what he wants on the side with the woman, but I am a woman and I can't. And I said, I thought we had an arrangement. And suddenly the arrangement I thought we had in my mind clearly was not the arrangement I thought he had given to me. So after he found out that I was trying to have a relationship with this guy I was helping, he said he was going to break it off with the lady he was seeing. I waited, and then I realized on Friday night he hadn't come home. And the next day, the Saturday morning, I asked him for a divorce. I said, I want to get a divorce. You don't want to be with me. The children are scared. They're scared that you're going to quarrel at any minute. I'm scared of living here with you. I want a divorce. And so he says that same time, I was going to break it off. Last night was the last night. I was going to break it off and come to you and tell you we can do it. We can work on it. And this is his modus operandi all the time, that when SHIT hits the fan, then he suddenly wants to make a change. So now suddenly he wants to go to counseling to help his anger after all the years that I asked him to go, and he said he's not going. But I stuck to him. I said I want a divorce. Then I started questioning whether I could still work on it, until he messaged me during the week and said he broke it off with the girl, but she wants one more time. And am I okay with that? I never replied whether I was okay or not, because I felt he had to be mature enough to make his own decision, and hoped that he would choose me. Then I'd reconsider the divorce. He never chose me. He went to the hotel and spent the night with her to give her the closure she needed. And that was it for me. I went ahead, made plans for the divorce. And through this divorce period, we still lived together. It was quite traumatic because he would still get into his rages. And I would just be scared of being at home with him. So as soon as online school for the kids finished, I would find an excuse or some way to leave the house and not come back home till the nighttime. And he would just have the kids on their tablets. And if I left food, he'd give them food. If not, I'd bring food home for them. That's how we lived for maybe 8 to 9 months. During that time, the arguments were about money. During those months when we were waiting for the divorce documents to be prepared, he would say, Lisa, I don't want to get divorced. But the reasons were never that I love you or I want to be with you. The reasons were about, I don't want to be away from the children. I don't want to lose this house that I'm living in. You're going to get more of the money than I am. You're making more than me, so you'll be okay. I'm going to be a pauper. You're putting me out on the streets. This time he has a very excellent job. So I had to negotiate away half of my savings to give to him. And I felt there was a very unfair settlement in that he got financially a lot more than I think he deserved. But that's what I wanted to do to avoid having to go to court and go to the trial where children were involved. So we agreed to joint custody. And after the divorce, he moved out a little bit before the divorce, and we were getting along fairly well. I would take the children by him sometimes. He would come over here to see them. And I was enjoying being alone. But then as time passed, I started getting closer to the same guy that I was helping, and we decided we would see if we could make a try after the divorce, if we can have a relationship, because we actually get along really, really well together. So he moved in with me, maybe about 9 months after the divorce, and moved in. It was more for convenience purposes rather than relationship purposes, because I was getting a lot of help from him in terms of cooking, in terms of cleaning the house while I was working and supervising the children in online schooling. And I was also actually getting physical training because I put in a gym downstairs, and he's a physical trainer. So he's a personal trainer. So my dad had a stroke in June. And on that day, I had to rush out of the house, and I left the kids at home with my partner. And when my ex-husband found out about the stroke, he asked where the kids were. I told him, because I had not told him before that this guy had moved in a few weeks ago, just because I was afraid of the reaction, and I wanted to tell him in a more face-to-face manner, and I had to get the courage to do it. But at the same time, I didn't think I had to tell him, but I wanted to. So when he found out, there was completely no regard for my father. It was all about this guy's at the house with his children, and he just raced to the house. I went straight to the police station and said I'm afraid to go home because my ex-husband is at the house and I don't know what he's going to do. So they advised for him to come to the station and talk to them, which he did, and I went home. So since then, my life has been a mental, emotional nightmare. I feel trapped in my home. I can't do, or I'm not free to do the normal things that I would do with my children. You know, take them out to the savannah, take them to the beach, take them on a hike to the waterfall. Because my ex-husband has said categorically several times, I don't want that guy, and I'll call him Sean. I don't want Sean doing anything with my children. I don't want him around the children. I don't want him feeding the children, cooking food for the children, disciplining the children. And it turned out I didn't agree with that. So I did have Sean teaching the kids the extracurricular activity that he has been teaching them for 3 years at home here. I do have them doing workouts with me and exercise because I don't like the kids on the tablets after school, especially when they are glued to screens for half the day on online school. And he does cook, and they do eat the food, and he does try to make sure that they eat all their food because they have a tendency of not wanting to eat healthy food. So there was a day during the stroke, when Michael and the kids were by my father's house, and my father was refusing to eat. And the big kid said, "Well, why don't you punish him because he's not eating?" And my ex-husband, Michael, said, is that what Sean does? Does he punish you when you're not eating? Or no, does he punish you? He said, does he punish you? And my big kid said, yes, he does. And Michael asked, how does he punish you? And he said, the big kid said, he gives us knuckle push-ups. And Michael flipped and made a report to the police that children are being abused in the home. And the police came to visit me. And they wanted to speak to the children. Needless to say, the children were completely mortified because the thought of police, guns, they started to cry. Thankfully, when the police actually did visit, the children weren't home, but they said they were going to pay another visit to talk to them. But when they heard my side of the story, they actually told me that, you did not need to tell your ex-husband who your partner is if your partner is living there. All your ex-husband needs to know is that your children are safe. And we can see the environment they're in, we can see they're safe. And they further went on to make it clear that the partner I chose to have in my house is my choice, and that he is actually the father figure. So he is free to discipline the children in ways that I agree once we're not physically abusing them. They're like, let them do chores, let them do push-ups. If it's part of training, remember that the home is different from the extracurricular activity environment, and don't think or don't let what my ex-husband thinks or what I think he's going to think affect the way that I'm raising my children. If as a mother, I believe that I'm doing the right thing for them. So that made me a lot more comfortable. Until I started getting questions, a lot of questions in messages from Michael, which I thought were personal questions, and I did not answer. Things like sexual things. Do I bathe with Sean in the house? Do I sleep in the same bed? Does he see the children naked? Does he look at them when they're bathing? Does he feed them? Does he play with them? Does he talk to them? Does he go places with them? And I just didn't answer certain things. I would answer if he talks to them, yes, if it really has to do with the children. But a lot of questions were personal about me and the relationship I was having with Sean. Do I love him? Am I going to get married to him? Am I taking him to Canada with me? And he said, because I was planning to migrate, he said he's not letting children go anywhere with us. And he has been questioning the children since. He's been asking them the same kind of questions he's asked me. And they get very scared when he starts questioning them. Scared to the point where they started lying to him and telling him answers that they think he would want to hear so he wouldn't get angry. Scared to the point when he calls on the phone to talk to them, they change the conversation immediately to talk about games that they play so that he wouldn't get a chance to ask questions. And yes, he called to talk to them, and he only started calling every day to talk to them and make a point to say prayers before they go to bed when he found out that Sean was living with me. For all the 8-9 years that I had children living here before, he would be on his phone or the computer every night when I was putting the children to bed and saying their prayers. Also, suddenly, he wants to make sure that he gets them on weekends, whereas before, he was kind of trying to shy away from having them on weekends because he said he's busy and he has other things to do. So a lot of things he started doing when he found out Sean was living with me, and that doesn't sit well with me. I mean, I'm happy he's doing it, but I'm hoping it's for the right reasons. So the other thing that happened is I found out that he has the guard at the gate spying on me and what happens in my household. And he also asked one of the workers that I hired to work in my house and do odd jobs. He's also met with him and asked him to listen out and give him information because he's trying to build evidence to take the children away from me. And this worker came and told me because he said, actually, I did listen. I do need money. I would have let him pay me to give information, but I really have nothing to give. I don't see anything to talk about, and it's not the right thing to do. So knowing now that I have spies in my house, I have been afraid to leave the house by myself. So I always take company when I'm leaving the house driving anyway. I don't go anywhere alone. I don't know who is listening, who's reporting what, because those are the only two I know of. The children are aware that there are spies in the house, and they keep looking around, asking, is anybody listening to this? Is anybody listening to that? Are they going to go and tell daddy what we're saying here? And the situation is just very tense all around. Now, I went to make a report to the police, but 3 times about how unsafe I feel, and they've said it's an issue for, I believe it's child protection or the family court, and they were not able to take a report from me. I have engaged my lawyers because I don't know how long I can go through feeling this traumatized. I also sent an email listing my concerns to my ex-husband, concerns of the emotional abuse on the children and how they're feeling about it, the abuse on me, that I feel that I'm being bombarded with personal questions that I don't think I need to answer because it's not his business, and concerns about COVID-19, really, in terms of other children safe. Are you taking them, by your parents? Or just make sure they have on masks. I prefer we're not supposed to be gathering at family households, but if that's what you want to do, make sure they have on masks. I asked him if he read the email a few days later. He said he just read part of it. And that made me feel very offended because it was probably the most important email I felt that I've sent. And it wasn't important, it was about his children. And I felt your children are important enough that you're not going to read my entire email. And I also want to note that I have my separation, my divorce agreement talks about that he should pay half of the expenses for the children every month. But I haven't gotten any of those payments, and I'm really not running it down because I don't want anything from him. And I don't want to, every time I bring up financial issues that, there's school fees or you got to pay additional fees on this mortgage, he ends up in a cursing fit on the phone and accusations that I don't care about him and that, well, this is my fault. Again, with the personal insulting abuse. And at that point, I hang up the phone, which gets him even more angry. But it makes me realize he hasn't changed. All these 15 years, he said he was going to change. He hasn't. Even after the divorce, even the period we were going through the divorce, he did not get counseling. Period after divorce, when he's living alone, I asked him a few months after, well, did you seek counseling? Are you trying to change? He said he didn't. And I said, I thought there might have been a chance for us if you were trying to change. And I think that's when he did contact somebody and spoke to them once. And the report he gave me back was that the person is on his side. The person thinks that he's right and that he hasn't done anything wrong, that I caused all of the stress on myself and abuse on myself. So, and I know what I'm saying here is my side. I know there's Michael's side as well that would need to be considered, but I can only speak from my point of view.
Yeah, so this is kind of scary too, your story, because you're still going through it. So you would have met this person and you would have seen the behavior before, but didn't know, you weren't able to identify, know that this is somebody I really just need to move away from. And the other thing that's troubling me is we are best friends. And I think this is the first time I've heard most of this. And it shows that, persons in these situations, you could be very close to them. But the only story I ever really heard in our friendship is the time where he poked you and you fell off the bed. And that was enough for me to want to do this whole series, furthermore, for everything that you have had to go through. You even talk about reaching out to his family and they not even supporting you or hearing what it is was going on, and quickly put the blame back on you, which just last week we had an episode on enablement, and we spoke about how friends and family can actually enable the abuse and put the blame back on the victim. In these abusive situations, it really is a cycle, which is exactly as you described. The tension is there is the explosion, and then there's suddenly sorry. But because of the eroding of your self-worth, you just continuously feel everything is your fault, and they make it a point to tell you that everything is your fault. And even working through the marriage, you have left the marriage, and now you are not even in a space of mental freedom. You are still fighting for that mental freedom with all of the intimidation that the person is putting on you. in our legislation, you actually don't need a lawyer to get the protection order. You could just go to the family court and go through their application process, but it still takes the other person to change. You know, one of the other survivors said she knows that this is a piece of paper, but it has to be on the other person to decide to change or to want to change or want to change for himself.
I will admit that I enabled, and I think I'm still enabling, sadly, some of this behavior. Because as you said, you're now hearing about most of this. I didn't go to anybody except for his parents that time to say anything about this. Partly because I felt ashamed. You know, I'm fairly well known in my industry. I'm well respected. To know that I'm going through this kind of situation. Besides that, my personality is I'm very I keep to myself. I don't share a lot of personal information out there. It's hard for me to trust people. And the other thing is I wanted to protect him because he's also well known in his industry. And so even when we told my parents about the divorce, and up to now, I haven't given them my side of the story. So they've just assumed that this whole thing has been caused by Sean, that I was cheating with Sean, and that's what broke up the marriage. They don't know about the violence that I went through, the emotional, mental, physical abuse. They don't know about his cheating. And I decided to take that on my own so they wouldn't think worse of him. To the point where we are at now is he still has his remote to my aunt's gate. He still could go in my aunt's house. They still message, but my aunt has now blocked me on WhatsApp, took away the remote, doesn't allow me in her yard because she thinks I'm with this person that broke up the marriage. And I just haven't come out and said the truth. This is the first time I'm actually saying all of this publicly. The only other person that probably knows is the lawyer and my partner. And I'm still enabling it because I still speak to him, I think, on a cordial basis if I have to. Yeah, when he comes to pick up the children, I still let him come over to the house to pick them up in the yard. I don't let him come inside at all. I still go over by him to drop the children. I'm just trying to be normal, but every time it happens, my pulse rate, my heart rate goes up, and I'm scared when I'm physically around him. So I guess as the story comes out, as I continue proceedings with my lawyer, and I am actually seeking the protection order, I will try to remedy some of those areas. And the other thing that happened, when he made the report that the children were being abused in July, the Children's Authority would have gotten the report as well. And they actually called me today to set up an interview where they want to speak to me, the two kids, and my partner separately in interviews, as they need to investigate the allegation of abuse. And the children now are again back in a state because they think they're going to go in jail if they say the wrong thing. So I find myself in a position now where I can't do much extracurricular activities with the children because we have joint custody. Even though I have care and control, I still need to ask his permission, or he still needs to ask me permission if we want to do anything different with the children. For example, I think to go to Tobago or to leave the country, to do something that's different, like an outing down to the Whitehall Trust. And he wouldn't give me permission if I'm taking them with Sean. He says he will want to go there with them for the first time if it's somewhere they're seeing for the first time. I understand that. I also would want to visit if they were visiting 5 islands for the first time. I want to be there to see that experience. I get that. But right now I'm between a rock and a hard place because I'm not going anywhere with Michael alone with the children. I would be too terrified of being in that situation. And Michael will not allow the children to go anywhere with Sean and me together. And then there's no question of the 5 of us going together because since he called the police on this house, Sean does not want to be around him or talk to him or have anything to do with him in that situation because in Sean's mind, he didn't do anything wrong, and I agree with him. And the police was called on him, whereas Michael could have just asked me a question that, this is what the child said. You know how children speak. This is what the child said. What actually happened or what's going on? But no, he called the police directly. So right now the children are just between home, the grocery, occasionally walking on Savannah. Just to sum this up, I think it's a question of a jealous boyfriend, jealous husband, and now a jealous ex-husband. he always seemed to me spoiled and immature in his behavior, and I tried to do with as best I could. He might say the same of me, I guess, with different points of view. But right now, I do not feel as if putting the children first. I feel he's putting his jealousy of me and Sean living in the house he thinks he lived in, and paid some mortgage towards, or Sean getting the gym that I didn't put in for him, or Sean being able to cook and I wasn't cooking. Different type of jealousy, I think, is what is being put before the children right now.
First of all, nothing is your fault and you don't deserve any of this. And I'm not saying that because I'm your friend. Persons in these situations, the victim does such a good job of eroding your self-worth and your self-esteem that you believe that you have to take accountability for everything. Nobody is perfect. Once you are not abusing someone, there's no accountability other than the fact, and we are friends, so I know the good person that you are. I know that you are faithful. I know that you are religious. I know you just wanted, it's that fairy tale marriage that we all wanted, and you just hoping that the person would change, because again, we don't learn in school. We went to the same school. We did never learn that the X, Y, and Z means no. You really need to leave that person. The first sign of person, the first sign of anything is when we really need to leave. But we weren't grown to believe that. We were grown to believe you work on your relationship. And then that intimidation, because again, we grew up in fear. We grew up with licks. We grew up thinking if you don't behave, you're going to live this fearful life. And so that behavior is normalized when we have boyfriends or husbands. And we let them tell us these things, and we let them make us believe that we are much less than we are. And you are definitely not that at all. I mean, I have known you for so long. I know that. But you yourself, the person has made you yourself doubt it to the point that you still think you are enabling the person. But that person has no right to basically control your life, which is what the person is trying to do. Just because you have a boyfriend, you are divorced, it is your right to move on. Whatever you're seeing, it's really your business. And for me, I think your story, which I had no idea about the extent of it, is really the classic example or case of abuse, because we are both normal persons. We are both educated. We both just want the best in life for whoever we are with. It is with much sincerity and pure love. But because we are not aware of the signs, because we don't know, because we are ashamed to think that this is actually happening to me, because we don't want to hurt the person that we love, because at the end of the day, we still love these people. We have some love for them, which results in us trying to protect them. But at the end of the day, you were the main inspiration for this series. You are the reason that so many people came to me and thanked me for doing this series. So your story has inspired millions of persons, even before you have told it. And I sincerely hope that you are able to get out of it, and that the law is on your side or works for you, whatever is the better way to say that, and you find that mental freedom with your children. So before we close, do you have any closing remarks or anything you would like to tell women in a similar situation?
There is hope after divorce, even with all that's going on around me right now. There is hope. I am very happy in this relationship with my partner. The children have been learning so much more than I thought that they would be able to learn. They're learning how to do different types of skips, exercising, finally eating healthy, that we're cooking. Now that we're cooking more at home. And my husband and I didn't do a good job disciplining those children. I think we were focusing a lot on our own issues and more trying to give them things they wanted, spoiling them to keep them happy, I guess. And I'm now trying to catch up on some of that discipline to get them where they should be in terms of listening to me, doing their chores. So bottom line, I'm very happy with my relationship. And my partner has been very, very supportive, even though he's a victim in this. I mean, there's a lot of racism towards him as well in this. He's been very supportive, and I don't think he's going anywhere. and I'm happy for that. In terms of messages to other women who may be going through this or know somebody, I would say first thing, talk to somebody about it. Find your sister and talk to them about what's going on so you can get advice instead of thinking you can do it on your own or thinking you're strong enough to do it on your own. The fact is, I don't think anybody's strong enough as much as we like to believe. You need that external advice from someone. And the second thing is that I would say to my young self actually is from the time you get called those derogatory terms, or from the time you see that first sign of rage, of pelting something or damaging, breaking a door, breaking a chair, you need to tell somebody, you need to tell him, I'll be gone, because I mean, I got two wonderful children out of this and I'm very, very grateful for that. The rest of it I could definitely do without.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story and even sharing what you have learned so that women or even young persons, because I encourage young persons to watch the series or mothers to watch it with their teenage children who are getting into relationships. Hopefully they would know enough not to make the mistake, or when they see the red flag, hopefully they would understand, well, okay, I need to talk to someone about this. Maybe I need to just end this relationship right now before it gets any worse and we go down this road. But I am glad that you are in a much better space. It may not be perfect, but it is a much happier space than you were. You are out of at least that marital relationship, and you can find things with your boys that you enjoy, and you know that you are giving them a healthier upbringing. Guys, as I said in the beginning, this is our last episode. So I hope that whichever episodes resonated with you, whichever ones you looked at, I hope that it brought something to you, some learning, such that in the future, we have a better future for our children, a future where we know what mental abuse is, what emotional abuse is, where we know how we could spot the red signs, the red flags, and know early in the relationship so that we are able to exit. Even understanding that whole cycle of abuse, the honeymoon period, where it is they really tie you into the relationship, giving you everything you want, moving into the period of tension and then the period of explosion, back into that honeymoon period, which really ties you into the abuse because you think this person is changed or he's so loving to me during this one little period. You're willing to dismiss all of the abuse. So I really hope that whatever I have done, I pray it has reached the persons that it needs to reach, and there is a better understanding in respect of this type of abuse. If you are in this situation, at the end of the episode, I do have up a list of resources for varying countries, and therapy is something I also encourage. Therapy has helped me through my own situations. A therapist can give you coping mechanisms and tools to deal with this type of situation, and they can even help you in your own safe exit plan. If you are in need of a therapist, episodes 8 and 9, Denise Jatan Johnson, she shared a lot on abuse, and you are always free to contact her. Thank you everyone for watching and supporting the series. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you soon with another initiative aimed at empowering women and fighting for our mental freedom. Bye, everyone.